to the unique sequence of these 4 chemical bases. So I think you perhaps get a bit of the imagery here now. When we talk about random design producing lots of possibilities and lots of combinations from just 4 chemical bases, everything that exists on our planet that has this characteristic of life comes from just changing the sequence of how these things are laced together in one's DNA. The next slide here, I sort of give you an idea of how that works. Mathematicians love this because you can generate almost virtually infinite possibilities from just a very small number of combinations. So for example, if we take a DNA strand that codes as a part of our genes, only 5 bases long, illustrated here with the green, thymine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. The number of possible ways that those 5 bases in a row can be sequenced is close to 1,000 different possibilities. It's 4 to the n, where 4 is the number of bases, n is the length of the DNA. If we just raise the length of the DNA to 10, now we rocket to 1 million different possible combinations within the genetic code. And if we go to just 15, now we're at 1 billion. Now you can see how quickly the numbers rise exponentially. And so the imagery that I want to convey here as we talk about random design is this concept that virtually infinite possibilities, infinite options are available. If we look at the length of a typical gene, which is a sequence of these bases that code for a protein, you all know you have at least a general concept of what a gene is. From a biochemist or a microbiologist perspective, a gene is a sequence of these bases that codes for a protein. And the proteins then make us what we are. Human beings have about 30,000 genes. So all that we are sort of wound up in the sequences of these nucleotide bases. A typical gene has about 3,000 bases in length. So if you look at the mathematics here, look at the potential diversity that's possible even within one gene. 4 to the 3,000th power. I actually sort of did a rough calculation of that. It's 4 with about 600 zeros behind it. Different possible combinations of the genetic code. Now don't let it escape you. I really hope that we don't miss this. There's something very important here. You see, because the sequence of these dots and dashes, or adenines, thymines, and guanines, determine what we will ultimately be in terms of our living characteristics and who we are physically. It also means that by changing just one here, or one somewhere else, we call that process mutation. Opportunity. Mutation is sort of like random. We have these negative connotations associated with it, but mutation from a biological and from a life sense is not bad. Mutation is opportunity with caps all the way across. We'll come back to that a little bit later. It's important for us to understand that concept because this sort of genetic change, small subtle changes, really lead us to an understanding of evolution. Okay, so when we look at this all in a nutshell, then we have 4 chemical bases give rise to infinite number of different genes, possibilities, which then lead to an infinite number of different proteins, which then lead to an infinite diversity of life. And that infinite diversity of life combined with the selection survival processes that are a part of our being automatically find the very best options for success in biological development. So the key point of this concept in random design, using the magic of combinatorial mathematics, random design successfully searches for the very best solutions to life's enormous and never-ending challenges. Infinite possibilities, infinite creativity. So a definition of random design, I started off the book, Random Designer, right there at the beginning of the first section with this definition. Random design is a powerful method for creating higher order, especially in living beings. By harnessing the laws of randomness, it functions by first generating large arrays of potential building blocks from which the most suitable candidates are sequentially incorporated into an ever-advancing architectural design. So the imagery here that I hope that you begin to see is sort of like a small stepping stone. We're building a building, building a creation in reality. And we've got an established framework, and random design generates a whole new slew of possibilities. And if any of those are useful, they get incorporated. And as soon as it gets incorporated, that now becomes a part of the brand new design, a new foundation, and a new platform. And random design creates another whole repertoire of possibilities. And then there's another addition. And it's a continuous, never-ending, literally billion-year-old process of creating life on our planet. I'd like to just spend a couple moments talking about one step deeper. Random design is a pretty remarkable thing in terms of its overall creative potential. But one of the things that really spoke to me as I began the process of writing random design is I saw very clearly that there was something else going on here. Random design actually works so well that life has actually developed, this is living systems, including us, has developed complex systems with the explicit purpose of generating controlled randomness. In other words, random design works so well as a scaffolding and a platform upon which to build life that life says, hey, this is a good thing. And so the living systems, through the process of random design, actually create structures that generate random design. So it's random design within random design. Cool. Some examples of that. First one I kind of alluded to last time. We talked about sexual reproduction. And one of the key things that makes life successful is its ability to show diversity. Lots of different options, variability. Even, as I said before in our last session, even if your parents were to have another child, the odds of that child being exactly like you genetically are easily greater than 1 in a trillion. Because of this mixing and matching that goes on during the production of a sperm and an egg. Virtually impossible. And yet tremendous diversity generated from small process. Now this is built into the systems now. I call it an example of higher order random design. And how do you pack all that stuff together into such a small area? If you take any one of you, for example, you have about 75 trillion nucleated cells, body cells. If we could take the 46 chromosomes that are present in each one of your cells and stretch them out to their full length, and we're not magnifying anything, just stretching them out to their full length, and then laying those chromosomes end to end from each of your cells, there is enough DNA in each of us to stretch from here to the sun and back. Well, I calculated it out at about 508 round trips. That's 93 million miles there and back in each of us. Now you're beginning to get a sense again of the enormous potential that's packaged so small, in such a small way within us. No doubt we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Another example of higher order random design, I suppose as an immunologist, this one really speaks to me in significant ways. I study this stuff all the time. We have a problem in our world. Microbiologists estimate that there are at least 2 or 3 million potential invaders that we might encounter during our lifetime that would be able to make us ill, even kill us. And yet we only have, remember I told you, 30,000 genes. So how do we protect ourselves against millions of potential invaders? Once again, random design, in this case higher order random design, comes into play. The body's immune system takes a limited repertoire of immunity genes, actually about 8 genes, and mixing and matching those genes in